And after a long while, Aday Mara responds. What did he have to say about those allegations?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free, wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. It's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And where we get started today, Aday Mara. All right. As I teased in the last episode, when Nico committed to UCLA, Aday Mara reached out to the LA Times and had an article written by Ben Bolch in his response to why he left UCLA. So this is all based on the article written by Ben Bolch, UCLA beat reporter, does great work for the LA Times, about why he went to Michigan, why he hit the portal, what did he think about those rumors floating around, the post, the report put out by Bruin Report Online. I know I talked about it, but here is the response from Aday Mara. All right, it was a fascinating read by Ben Bolch put out on Easter Sunday. I encourage you to read it and just kind of get that perspective. Aday Mara, this is what he had to say, some quotes in response to why he left. All right. So for Mara, this is what he was thinking. He obviously was a guy who was extremely impactful for UCLA this most recent season, was arguably the biggest key piece Mick Cronin had to keep, could have kept, should have kept in this most recent offseason that is still obviously ongoing. And yet now here he is heading to Michigan. Before we even get to quotes, it's clear and obvious Michigan's a great place. Why for Aday Mara? They ran well with two 7-footers. Danny Wolf, Vlad Golden. Golden coming from FAU. Wolf coming from the portal from Yale to follow Dusty May to Michigan. It seemed like a good fit. Unfortunately, it's a Big Ten rival, a place that UCLA is going to have to go to most likely to Ann Arbor next season if we expect the schedule to be the way it is. So this is what Aday Mara had to say. All right, this is in this conversation. It was, quote, "It was very hard to leave UCLA because you saw every game. I was enjoying it, super happy because I saw all the crowd cheering for me, helping me a lot. Los Angeles is a really, really good place. Westwood, I'm going to miss it." And I wanted to say that because it was a hard decision, because it's just after 2 years, it's felt like I spent a lot more time than 2 years. That is a quote Aday Mara quoted in this LA Times article by Ben Bolch. So obviously, leaving was not easy for the kid, right? If you remember the initial journey, it came from him leaving his team in Spain, which was already an awkward split there. It took a long time for that to be official, for him just to get to UCLA. It was a fascinating back and forth, and he was finally able to get to UCLA. All right. So then this is Mick Cronin. This is Aday Mara talking about why did he leave, right? If he loves LA, eventually went home, was expecting to come to UCLA, return to UCLA, goes home to Spain, and then leaves. And then all of a sudden, it's like he's transferring. He's not reporting. The expectations with the NIL deal weren't met, or were the demands true that he wanted to go to Spain whenever he wanted, not condition, not practice? What was it? Asking out of games? Well, Aday, in this article, it says he acknowledged that he did ask to come out of games. Okay, the part that he would expend his energy in short bursts. This was his quote. "I knew I wasn't going to play a lot, so I was going like 100%. That's why I was getting tired, because I knew it was going to be 6 minutes, and if I play well, it was going to be 15. So I was going like 100%, and sometimes, yeah, I'm tired. I need some rest." All right, that's most of the quote he puts out there. All right, and here's what he had to say about another important reason why he left. This is another Aday Mara quote. "I had expectations when I came here that I didn't achieve. I also think I felt like I was playing good, practicing hard, putting in the extra work. And until Wisconsin, I never had the opportunity to show that I was able to play, And once, as it's put here, Cronin gave me the opportunity. I saw not a lot, but I saw what I could do. So those are some of the reasons, right? The ability for him to get on the court, the opportunity just wasn't presented to him, which we all acknowledge as UCLA fans. That seemed like Mick Cronin's, he wouldn't use him. He would not use him. And then here is what was fascinating. I feel that I had to change, Mara quoted in this article, but I didn't want to. All right. And this is his official quote of the alleged demands, which it is written in here talking about the purported demands detailed by Bruin Report Online, remaining in Spain for the summer, returning to his home country whenever he desired, not to mention the ability to dictate his own practice schedule and pull himself out of games whenever he wished. That is written right here in the LA Times about the Bruin Report Online report. So this is Mara's response to all those allegations, the alleged demands. I feel like that's crazy for a player who is 20 years old asking a coach for not practicing or playing whenever he wants. I feel like that's a crazy thing for someone. If someone does that, it's because, I don't know, I would never say that. It's not true. It's someone who is 19, 20, or 21 says that. It's because he doesn't like basketball, and I love basketball. So that's crazy. All right. Crazy. That is his response. There is one thing he acknowledged that was true. So basically, he did slightly acknowledge about he did ask out of games. That was part of what was written down here. Another part was that after he said he was not coming back to UCLA, that he wanted to work out with the team, whatever that looked like. He acknowledged he also did want to work out with the team's director of athletic performance, who he praised, named Dave Andrews, how he got him into shape, and he wanted to work out with the guy couple months before he left UCLA with classes and then got his way into the portal. So he wanted to work out with the athletic trainer, or the director of athletic performance to get him in shape. And obviously Mick Cronin was like, no. So some of those reports in Aday's mind, he acknowledged asking out of games and then acknowledged about how he did still want to work out, quote unquote, with the team's director of athletic performance and had high praise for him. So a lot of this boils down to him being like, I want to change. And part of the thing that he talked about in this, he's super excited to go to Michigan to show he can play and play at a good level. And a fascinating thing, it's like he wanted to change. It's also written in this article that he made this decision. It was not his family. All right. This is not like you're seeing how this is playing out in the Nico situation. How much is it Nico? How much is it the dad? What's going on with the Nico Iamaleava, camp overall? Obviously, they forced their way out of Tennessee and they found their way to UCLA. Aday came out and wanted to have his voice heard, right? Which is exactly what I think everybody wants from Nico. If you want to keep the parallels between the situations, obviously it's one that a much bigger national scale, very different in terms of what happened and how the portal transpired for both these players. But Aday has come out and he wanted to make his side of the story heard. All right. We've had maybe the Cronin whispers through one angle. You've got Aday coming out and reaching out to the LA Times to get his voice heard. Now, if you look at Nico Iamaleava, you would love for the guy to answer truthfully, clearly, eloquently, and look everybody in the eyes and say, this is what went down. All right. Now, there's always different sides. There's his story, and the truth. What am I talking about? There's the coaching staff story. There's the Aday Mara story, and then there's the truth. And somewhere in the middle of that is where all these things intertangle and come together. All right. Now, from reading this article, none of it ever truly mentioned anything about NIL opportunities, but a lot of it came down to Aday appreciating the use of Michigan's big men, watching, say, hey, there's an opportunity there. They have a couple of big men that are leaving, and I could see myself performing well. Obviously, that would be a good NIL opportunity for Aday Mara, still heading to Michigan, staying at the same high level. And I think some of these things, hey, he wasn't finding the right opportunity at UCLA. Those are all fair criticisms of Mick Cronin. While he did acknowledge he asked out of games, but he clearly shut down any of those potential rumors. He said, no, that's not true. This was my decision, not my family's. I got their input, but this was clearly my decision. I wanted to change. That was Aday. Now, we love Nico to do something similar, but I think it's a great thing for Aday to come out and get his side out and say, this is the truth. This is what I want. And this is what happens. All right. Not to completely deny everything that's said on every side, but somewhere in the middle, all this is accurate. And Aday says that is all nonsense. He posted that on his social media saying, I'm tired of the nonsense, tired of the lies. Nico has done something similar, right? When the rumors have come out of him trying to throw, or not exactly throw the playoff game, but sit out the playoff game for more NIL opportunities from Tennessee. I tried to throw the playoff game and take more money. That's what we'd want for Nico. We want the kid to come out and say something. Aday, and now here he is off to Michigan, and we wish him the best of luck. Clearly, Cronin did not do his best work here. And clearly, I think Aday, obviously, maybe he's found a way to say what he's needed to say. I think there's ways that both sides could have resolved this, but they didn't. They did not, and it did not work out. Mick Cronin likes his undersized big men, and Aday is probably going to be a better fit at Michigan with Dusty May, who ran Michigan to a Big Ten tournament title and one of the better teams in the Big Ten based off their size. So I think the kid will thrive, and this is his side of the story. And considering what the Nico situation's going on right now, how UCLA got the top quarterback in the portal for the football team, hey, Nico, this would be a great opportunity to do something similar in hey, this is what's happening. While we're still left in the dark with, all right, this is what's happening, all right? So can Nico, as we shift over to the gridiron, can he thrive? Can he succeed with the brightest of lights in Los Angeles, in Westwood, playing at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena with UCLA? I will talk about that next, while we hope and wish the best for Aday Mara at his new stop in Michigan. Get the supplies you need from this site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House has industry-leading service and expert support, so you can always talk to a real person. If you're looking for the trade pros for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone lines, free shipping, and discounts in every offer. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage of the offer. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies in just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH and the number 5, SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Cruising on to the second segment, UCLA. UCLA has got the top quarterback, the top prospect in the transfer portal. All right, after all the buzz, after all the drama, after the negotiations, after waiting, after it wasn't official, started with Colin Cowherd and Bruce Feldman before Pete Thamel, for the most part, wrapped that bad boy up. UCLA, through all the reports, stuck it out, and they got Nico Iamaleava. All right, and all the drama and all the baggage that comes with it. What does it mean? They've got a 5-star quarterback. They've got arguably the best player available, especially at the quarterback position, in the spring portal. All right, the top prospect available at this part of the season. And if you're thinking in the winter portion of the season, where the portal was open near the end of November, December, right, when the portal was going crazy and really active, UCLA was sitting there, and Deshaun's like, all right, are the Bruins going to get their quarterback? Well, after a little bit, they got Joey Aguilar. A lot of youngsters behind that were wondering, where are these kids going to go? Are they going to sit behind some veteran? Is some youngster going to come take the job? Okay. And then all of a sudden, about a week ago, this all started building and bubbling up. And Nico Iamaleava gets his way to UCLA. All right. So can the kid succeed? That is the biggest question. All right. It's no longer a deal, no deal. Okay. No. Howie Mandel hat off. Can this guy succeed at UCLA? Well, if you're reading the Pete Thamel reports about, all right, the next steps for Joey Aguilar, because he was apparently having a successful camp heading in with Tino Sunseri, the newest offensive coordinator, who has had now quite a few quarterbacks to deal with the last few years, bouncing from team to team, moving into UCLA as the head man, the head honcho, the offensive coordinator at UCLA. No co next to the position of offensive coordinator. He is the man, and a young superstar at that, and everybody seems to love the hire. You mix in a youngster quarterback with big-time experience, hopefully a lot of simplified versions of plays UCLA's run in the past compared to how they had to deal with the Eric Bieniemy offense transitioning from the Chip Kelly offense. And I think any returner for UCLA from a year ago is going to love the Tino Sunseri offense. Can Nico thrive? As I've mentioned before, Deshaun Foster came out and told the media he's liked what the big boys, the men up front, the offensive line, has done, how they've competed through spring camp. Now, is that just coach speak? Or is that, oh, hey, actually what we've built through recruiting, through the transfer portal, what we've got returning is turning into actual results on the field. We won't know that until the Bruins get ready, put on the pads, and play Utah. All right, we won't know that until August. Now, the fascinating thing is you wonder, hey, how did Nico get to UCLA? Were the grades going to be a thing? Were the academics with this transfer? Were they just waiting for the transcripts to be okayed by UCLA? And that's why this took so long. So if you want to take a quick look at the academic calendar for Tennessee, all right, you're going from a semester system to a quarter system. All right, if you want to get real nerdy into the academic side here, which is still a part of the factor for how these kids have to maneuver from one school to the next. If you're looking at Iamaleava's schedule, based on the spring 2025 schedule, Tennessee, they actually have finals that start in 2 weeks. All right. So if this is already an official, absolute official end of his Tennessee tenure, right, with school and everything, they already announced everything at UCLA. They sent the emails out. I got that email too. Nico to UCLA. Get your donations in. Get your season tickets now. They're hyping it up. He had finals in 2 weeks. If you go back to the Aday Mara part, he had to withdraw from his classes. He went back. His visa literally expired, and then he has to go back home before heading out to workouts with Michigan in the summer. Now, if you look at Nico, this is obviously a different situation, not international. He's coming one where he'll play high school ball in SoCal. The difference here is obviously classes were almost over in 2 weeks. So he was probably winding down in terms of academics for this spring semester anyway. But the unique thing is that at UCLA, just getting things started with the quarter system. Maybe he can take a summer class or two. I don't know. That's a little above my head. That it's a little different going from the Tennessee system, the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, to UCLA, and going from semester to quarter and how that all works. But it's a fascinating thought. It does give Nico a full summer, hopefully, to learn an offense that's not the Eric Bieniemy offense. That's not super complicated or as complicated as last year. You've got a guy who's got talent, who's got ability, and for the most part, from hearing what Kirk Herbstreit had to say, from kind of reading different things, this is a likable guy. Is he going to destroy the locker room? I think it would be very tough for one guy to destroy the locker room. This is more the move itself. I don't think Nico is going to come in here and be like, okay, he's just going to completely go crazy. All right, that's just not what I think this situation. It's more, how do the players look to Deshaun Foster in future recruiting situations, in future NIL negotiations in the winter? How do future transfers say, how do you not burn us from the winter heading into spring practice? And this is why, for better or for worse, you have two portal windows, the winter one and the spring one. This wouldn't be happening if you had one window. If you had, now that you have multiple windows, this UCLA is like, hey, we got an opportunity to go get the number one guy and bring him in and still get technically 3 years of eligibility out of this kid. If he stays for 1 to 2 years, that would be successful if he put some big numbers. It's been a minute since UCLA has had a young, clear-cut number one. All right. We hoped Dante Moore would be that. Didn't end up being the case. It was more Ethan Garbers who waited for his turn. It's been DTR, and we all missed DTR. DTR got a lot of criticism for his play, and now we've missed DTR for his flashiness, his leaping over defenders, the dynamic plays he made on the field with the various running backs in the backfield, where he led UCLA to top 10 contention in his final year, nearing to a Pac-12 championship game. He was dynamite, especially in his final year at UCLA, even if it cost the Bruins a chance at Dillon Gabriel, right? Who bounced around to Oklahoma, finished his career at Oregon, and led them to being a number one team in the country. All right. All because DTR stayed one more year. For Nico, he's a younger guy looking to rebuild his image with an offensive guru who's trying to make a name for himself. And if he was already working with Joey Aguilar, a turnover machine, you mix in the numbers with Nico, okay, he didn't put up big numbers against Ohio State, all right? I don't think anybody was going to put up big numbers against Ohio State. The team won the national championship. And unlike all those other playoff games, if you look at where Nico and his, at the time, Tennessee Volunteers had to go to, it was the first time ever we've seen teams all go on the road to play in the college football playoff. The rest of those games are all neutral site games for Ohio State and the other teams. But Nico, they had to go into the Horseshoe. They had to go into Columbus and expect to win. That wasn't happening for the higher seeded teams, for the teams playing at home, mostly just dominated. So when he comes and what he brings to UCLA is an absolute jolt of energy. Like it or not, the Bruins will have to deal with any off-the-field circus that his camp might bring. Maybe Deshaun's like, we're not doing this. Or they are assured from the negotiations that the nonsense will stop. A kid that is talented, that has a good heart, that is ready to go, he can absolutely have success at UCLA. And that's coming from a guy who spent the last week saying, this is something I want to stay away from, but Deshaun Foster thought otherwise. He clearly thought otherwise about this situation and said, hey, I have a chance to make a splash. He understands UCLA needs to get butts in the seats. They need to drive interest. That's why he's having Friday night showcases in addition to a spring game showcase. Just say, hey, look at the program. We're going to SoCal. We're bringing kids back to SoCal. We are going after the number one guy, and we can maybe even help transform his image. Imagine how successful it's going to help UCLA be in the future for Deshaun Foster if this actually works out. Like, I can talk crap all I want. I can talk all this mess, blah, blah, blah. Everybody else, cool. He comes in here and dominates. Imagine if you have a bad image, you're like, well, UCLA just turned that around. Imagine if you're a quarterback, like, wait a minute. They can go generate some interest and compete a little bit with some SEC dollar there. If a guy's going to leave SEC he's asking for a raise and UCLA is like, well, I'll step up and we'll get close to it. Clearly, yes, UCLA didn't have a market. Nico had almost literally no market. Bruins said, hey, we'll take a chance. You can almost forget that UCLA went after Joey Aguilar and they might tell him, or he might decide to go elsewhere. We'll see where he is going to decide to go, if it's staying at UCLA or elsewhere in this springtime at the moment. If Nico succeeds, it will be entertainment at the highest order. I think we're going to see a lot of buzz around UCLA that we would not have if he did not come to UCLA. They go from the butt of the jokes of college football, bottom of the Big Ten, one of the lowest over-unders in the win-loss total for this season, to, okay, this could help them increase that win total to, we're expecting them to go bowling versus that would be a treat. And if he puts up some numbers and the Bruins all of a sudden get him close to NFL draft status in 1 year with Tino, or in 2 years, Deshaun will have to get the respect he deserves. If it doesn't work out, well, we all knew it was a circus beforehand. And that's why it'll be entertaining to talk about it some more throughout the rest of the offseason. And you should stick here with Locked On UCLA to talk about it over and over again. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time actually makes it fast and easy to get those playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. And trust me, it is sky high right now. Prices actually go down on the app as tip-off gets closer, and the last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. 60%. For me, when I went to see a game in the NBA earlier this season, I used Game Time and got to go see a big-time Knicks game in the Garden. And I used Game Time and got the best deal through the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, wrapping things up here today in this episode of Locked On UCLA. The spring sports, what does it mean for both UCLA baseball and softball to fail in Eugene? Well, unfortunately, with Big Ten title hopes on the line, nearing the end of the regular seasons before conference tournament play comes, selection committee, and in both teams' cases, does this mean they get a national seed? Do they host in the first round? And yet both the Bruin baseball team and Bruin softball team fell short at the hands of the Oregon Ducks. Let's take a look first at Coach Inoue Perez's squad. This is a UCLA team that went into Oregon in the battle for two top 10, top 5 teams, depending on what ranking system you use, going into Eugene. UCLA came in with a chance. You win, you have the tiebreaker, you're in first place. Well, they fell short. So Oregon, 14-2, UCLA 13-3, all alone in second place. But the Ducks are basically 2 games ahead. 1 game in the standings, and they had the head-to-head tiebreaker. What happened over the weekend? Well, the brief synopsis of what happened in the weekend, UCLA in a low-scoring affair in Eugene, gave up a run in the bottom of the third, 2 late runs in the 6th, had a late solo blast, and lost 3-1 in a low-scoring affair. Then, Saturday, late afternoon, early evening, had Addison Fisher come through and throw a shutout as the Bruins run-ruled the Ducks in 6. A big 6-run 6th inning, and their pitcher throwing a 6-inning shutout, CG, UCLA comes back to like, all right, we're dominant. We're coming back to win this. Next thing you know, Sunday rolls around, afternoon on Easter Sunday, and 2 quick early runs by the Ducks in the first, in the third, 5 in the fourth, and then the Ducks turn around and run-rolled the Bruins the next day. So in a battle between top 10 teams who are wrestling for Big Ten supremacy, national seeds, better positioning in the regional round, in the super regional round to get back to the Women's College World Series, better seeding the Big Ten Conference Tournament. It's Oregon, ranked as high as 4 or 5, depending on what you're looking at, came through and won the series victory. What's next, though, for UCLA? Well, after this series at Oregon, where they scored a combined 9 runs in 3 games, if you're doing the math there, that's 3 runs per game against a top 5 team. That's not going to do that. And when they all came in one game, unless you won 1-0 in one of those big-time conference games, UCLA struggled to put runs on the scoreboard, while Oregon got just enough Friday night, suffered that Saturday defeat, and said, you know what, we're going to put the runs up on Sunday, and they absolutely did. UCLA returns home for Tuesday midweek game against Long Beach State before they turn around and go to Michigan. So this is where the travel gets ridiculous in the Big Ten. You go from, okay, UCLA top 5 battle against Oregon, come home, all right, make sure you're still loose, play Tuesday against Long Beach State, expected win there. And then you go around and you go on the road to Ann Arbor. From Eugene to Ann Arbor, at least you got the Ducks out of the way first. It'd be tough to get the travel and then go to Eugene. UCLA suffers. Maybe they'll be angry, take it out against Long Beach State at home. And then you go play Michigan. And where does Michigan sit? They're in the middle of the Big Ten standings in softball, 9-7 overall in Big Ten play, 31-15, losers of 3 in a row. But the Wolverines are 7-1 at home. Their record is pretty similar to that of Iowa. The only other team in the Big Ten that's beaten UCLA, and the Bruins lost once in a 2-game set at Iowa. So the Bruins this year are pretty good, but they are beatable even against a mediocre Big Ten team on the road like Michigan and Iowa represent versus what they dealt with against Oregon. This is where UCLA could suffer that travel loss, that disappointment loss after a weekend at Oregon. There's still a chance UCLA could catch the Oregon Ducks. There's still 1 and 2 more weekends. So if Oregon falls a bit short of the next couple weekends, you could, but you would have to go unbeaten and hope Oregon goes at worst 4-2, right? If Oregon goes 4-2, UCLA goes 6-0, which includes travel, which includes a battle against the team in 3rd place in Northwestern. Well, you have to go to Ann Arbor. Then maybe UCLA can win a regular season crown. But at the moment, they failed in Eugene, and they're on the outside looking in at a Big Ten Conference 1 seed in the tournament and a Big Ten championship in their inaugural year. For the baseball team, how are they doing? What's it looking like for John Savage's club? They also went to Oregon, but a very different set of circumstances, right? It was a little more topsy-turvy. UCLA's top 10. Their record overall at the end of the weekend comes in 29-10. Their first series loss of the year. UCLA had waited until the end of April before their first series loss, which is a fascinating topic of discussion. So they had a loss on Tuesday against Oregon State. Wasn't really competitive, lost 7-1 at home, who was a top 5, top 6 team. Against a top 15 Oregon team, lost a heartbreaker 2-1 against the Oregon Ducks in a low-scoring affair. Since the same story, well, thus the UCLA Bruins on Saturday run-ruled the Ducks 14-4 in 8 innings, all right? This feels exactly like what happened in softball. The only difference is, on Sunday, a lot more of a competitive game for the UCLA baseball team. The Bruins down 2-0 early, responded to get a 4-2 lead, only to give it up and get down 6-4, tie it in the 8th inning after a run in the 6th, 1 run in the 8th, 6-6, and the next thing you know, the Oregon Ducks in a tie game, bottom of the 8th inning, win it 10-6 in front of 3,000 rabid fans at PK Park. So they dropped the series. Their first of the year. Not that much of a disappointment. They battled, they fought, they got a huge resume boosting opportunity coming up on the road Tuesday against UC Irvine, and then hopefully what should be an easier series against Penn State. But it does put UCLA at a disadvantage in the standings, right? The standings are all sorts of wonky if you look at the records now. Iowa is 17-4 in first place. UCLA is 13-5 in second place. So they have less losses, but way less wins in a winning percentage that does not adjust or does not account for that. Iowa's won 4 games in a row. The Bruins have lost 1. Oregon is 14-7. USC is 11-7. Washington's 11-7. And those are your teams who sit 2 through 5 in the Big Ten standings. It's basically Iowa and their cupcake schedule, and then the 4 Pac-12 teams who we all would expect would do a lot better in Big Ten play than they would during the Pac-12. Because you look at Oregon State, who's an independent, and they're all of a sudden a top 5 team like they have been because they've dominated college basketball, college baseball, I should say, over the last couple of decades with their runs to the College World Series in Omaha 3 times. Why do I say it's a cupcake schedule for Iowa? Well, I was looking at Iowa's schedule, a team that's in first place, 17-4. And as I told you, UCLA has had to face off against 2 of the top 4, 5 teams in the Big Ten last couple of weeks. Iowa has not faced and will not face UCLA, has not faced, nor will they face USC, and they don't face Washington or Oregon until the final couple of weekends in the regular season. Oh, by the way, they will play Oregon State in a non-conference matchup, but they do get to host the Oregon State Beavers and Oregon Ducks. And when I say host, they play Oregon State in Des Moines, while they do get to play Oregon in Iowa City. All right. So it's fascinating that as easy as Iowa's schedule has been, UCLA still has a chance. Iowa still has a non-conference weekend. And I think Iowa's going to take some losses. UCLA, despite their series loss to Oregon, does have 2 losses ahead of the Ducks in the win-loss column. So if they can take care of business against Penn State is middle-of-the-road Big Ten team. They do play USC, and that's with a chance to sneak up for a Big Ten title. Northwestern, Illinois at the end of the schedule. Northwestern is near the bottom. Illinois is the middle of the pack. Those are nowhere near Oregon's caliber. But UCLA has to start sweeping these series. I think Iowa will lose a series or 2, if not get swept by an Oregon or a Washington. Dare I say even Oregon State, and they could be pretenders here and found out in the next part of the season. Now, the Hawkeyes could say, Zach, you're dumb, we're done, we're real, and they can go prove it. Oregon State, Washington on the road in 3 straight weekends for the Hawkeyes. We'll see if they're legit in the baseball diamond. All right. The Bruins still, while they don't technically control their destiny on their baseball side, can still win a Big Ten title. And I think they're ready to go. And the softball team is still good too. They just don't control their destiny to go and win a Big Ten title. They've just got to find a way to get clutch hits, string them together when the NCAA tournament comes around, all right? But a terrible weekend in Eugene. Both teams, for the most part, suffer similar fates Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with loss, win, loss. Identical. Crazy how that happens. But we'll talk more UCLA sports over the rest of the week. We'll talk more of the Nico saga, any more updates to the Aday Mara drama and saga as that's played out with his transfer to Michigan. And if there's any more players that Mick Cronin goes after, if there's any more adjustments to the UCLA football roster right here on Locked On UCLA, like, comment, subscribe, download. Tell me your thoughts. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.